Now, I feel like I have been scrolling through X for, I'd say, the past couple of mornings, and I have been seeing nothing but cap moves all across the NFL of teams attempting to gain some cash so that they could potentially be big spenders in free agency, but then more importantly, also end up getting cap compliant. And as many of us know, the deadline is March 12th and the legal tampering period begins on the 10th. That's the real day where you're seeing all of these free agency acquisitions, all of these trades. And I got to tell you, I've been looking at the Buffalo Bills news feed, I would say for close to 24 hours. I have regularly been checking to see if there has been any other move outside of the Khalil Shakir extension, which happened a couple of days ago. And when Khalil Shakir ultimately ended up getting extended, it did virtually nothing for our current status of being cap compliant going into the year of 2025. Now, I'm confident that Brandon Beane is going to get it done, but I suppose it's a bit of a head scratcher because I thought that he would be really wheeling and dealing at this point with various restructures, with some contract extensions. And I'm not just talking locking down guys for a considerable amount of time. I'm more so talking about him getting cap compliant, right? Because free agency is right around the corner. And as much as I would love to sit here and discuss, oh my God, I want the Buffalo Bills to make this move. I want the Buffalo Bills to trade for this player, acquire this free agent. It's very difficult for me to say that and make accurate predictions when absolutely nothing is happening, right? Like I'm sitting here and I am looking at the current cap situation. And again, I do certainly believe it's going to get done. In fact, I'm going to be a gambling man and say that we're going to hear some news of a restructure here momentarily, at least by the end of the day, definitely on Friday, because the deadline is fastly approaching. But where it stands, the Buffalo Bills are still about $10 million over the cap. We are nowhere near cap compliant at this point. But there are options here, right? And I think some of the biggest moves that could be made, hands down, some restructures. Now, we've been talking about Josh Allen. If a restructure for Josh Allen were in place, we would add about $11 million. That just by itself would make us cap compliant. Still wouldn't have a lot of money to spend, but something to consider. I am still under the impression that Josh Allen is going to get a lot more than just a restructure. I think that he is going to get an extension. I believe that he will be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for however amount of time. It could be a couple of days until somebody ends up beating him out or the following year. So that's there. And then a Von Miller restructure would obviously save about $10.6 million. If you were to talk to a couple of my buddies in the Buffalo Bills, sort of stratosphere, if you will, right? Many of them would tell you that Von Miller would be a pay cut sort of candidate. And look, there are a lot of people who are like, oh my God, we have to cut Von Miller. Yes, we could cut him. We could release him. But to be completely honest with you, we are in a position right now where we need to gain as much capital as humanly possible. And cutting him is going to give the least amount of benefit. The best thing we could do with Von Miller is to basically convince him to take a pay cut. And we would even see more significant savings on top of that $10 million, which I think could work out. So if anybody wants Von Miller cut, unfortunately, our best option right now is just to have Von Miller take a pay cut. That's what is going to really end up helping out this cap space in general. But real restructure candidates, and something that I think could be intriguing, would be Ed Oliver. That would save about $8.7 million in cap room. Afterwards, Dion Dawkins, a $9.8 million restructure, would certainly help out this team in a variety of different ways. And Matt Milano, obviously, would add about $5 million into spending. Now, it's interesting. And, oh, yeah, of course, we have Dawson Knox, who can also be in that category. So if done appropriately, I am estimating if all of these players get some sort of modification to their current deal, whether or not that is an extension, whether or not that is a restructure, I think we're going to be looking at around $30 to $35 million worth of spending money. And again, I know people are sitting there and they're still obsessed with that financial metric of average annual value or average annual salary. 9 times out of 10, if you see a player that is getting an average annual salary of $27 million, for example, 9 times out of 10, you are not seeing that full figure go against the cap on the first year. Typically, because it is likely structured into signing bonuses and then also a very minimum salary. So when you see like a $27 million a year average annual salary, more than likely right between signing bonuses and actually how it is accounted for based off of base salaries, that's going to look a bit more like a $4 to $5 million cap hit, $7 to $8 million cap hit, if at all necessary. And then last but not least, this one right here, we have Gregory Rousseau, who is due a base salary of $13.4 million. That directly goes against the Buffalo Bills cap room. So there's options here, right? Number one, I know that he is far down on many of Bills Mafia's list of getting a new deal, of a new restructure. I think he's been a great player for us, but I think when I mention names like Christian Benford or when I mention names like Terrell Bernard, everybody tends to hop on that idea of an extension opposed to Gregory Rousseau. But a long-term extension for Gregory Rousseau would also, in turn, create cap space immediately right now. I have been talking to a couple of people who have said, hey, Dan, what if, for example, we packaged Gregory Rousseau with a trade over to Cleveland for Myles Garrett? That could also potentially be an option for us, right? Essentially trading Gregory Rousseau, another first round pick, a third for Myles Garrett. So there are quite a bit of things that we can do. But this $13 million base salary, which is fully guaranteed on his fifth-year option, is something that I see Brandon Beane wanting to take advantage of. And then, of course, a bunch of other sort of guys that we could go on ahead and extend. I think Connor McGovern is a sleeper when it comes into a contract extension right now, especially since we could save about 3.9 based off of a restructure. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Curtis Samuel could also be a cap casualty, but I think we're going to have to wait until 2026. My point is, the summary of my yapping session is that while we're looking at this number at about $10 million over the cap, we have answers. And 30 to 35, if I was a gambling man, is more than likely where we are going to be. Now, folks, if you are just joining, I sincerely appreciate that. My name is Dan Mitchell. I am a content creator that covers the NFL and also the Buffalo Bills. If you are watching the replay of this episode, I highly recommend that when you subscribe to the channel, you turn on bell notifications, because I want you to be a part of my live chat community. All right. We have built a massive, incredible community throughout the past couple of years. So if you are watching the replay, just make sure you turn on those bell notifications when you subscribe so we can turn to the live chat and see exactly what their thoughts are. But folks, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I want to see a move from the Buffalo Bills be made today. And I don't even need a sexy move. I don't need this just in, the Buffalo Bills traded for DK Metcalf, right? Or this just in, the Buffalo Bills have completed a trade with the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett has a new home. All I want, like shit, like give me a Deion Dawkins restructure. That would make me thrilled, because I know it's just adding fuel to the fire that free agency is right around the corner, and I will be a happy man. Smash that like button for me, folks. Easiest way to show some love over here. We want 150 like buttons on this video, live stream and replays included. So if you haven't already, just hit that thumbs up sign for me. Let's pump these numbers up. I do need to give a giant shout out to Indeed, one of our proud sponsors, and that just so happens to be William Matar, folks. William Matar is the #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I never wish this on anybody, but if you ever find yourself in that negative situation, it's very important to have the appropriate representation. And William Matar is that dude. He is him, as the kids would say. If you're hurt in a car, call William Matar. Phone number is on the screen. Great guy and an even better businessman, baby. Let's go ahead and go to the chat. See how everybody is feeling this morning. Again, smash that like button if you haven't had a opportunity of doing so far. We have XL Put My boy is coming in, man. He's showing a little bit of love. Worst case scenario, though, I'd rather keep Gregory Rousseau. So he is interesting for our cap space because, as I just showed you guys, he is fully guaranteed a $13.4 million salary this year, which is a massive hit on a Buffalo Bills team that is currently over the cap. Something is going to be done about Gregory Rousseau. Now, whether or not that is a massive contract extension that would end up making room this year, like 3 to 4 years down the road, his market value is absolutely insane. I think it was close to like $34 million a year average annual salary. And or we could potentially use him for some trade compensation if we were, for example, wanting to go out for the Myles Garretts of the world, right? Or the Trey Hendricksons of the world, man. We will see. You know what, man? As much as I love talking about the possibility of Myles Garrett coming to this team, why do I just have a gut feeling that it's going to be Joey Bosa? Dave and Storm is saying, and who is the gentleman in the background, Dan? David, you must, oh, man. Dude, listen, you are exposing yourself for not being here in quite some time. This is Bob. Bob receives several beatings when I'm watching football. So say, for example, that something frustrates me, then I just beat the shit out of Bob right behind me, man. That is precisely what we are talking about. Man, he's exposing himself for not tuning into a live stream for about 5 to 6 months. Absolutely breaks my heart. Does the Barkley contract hurt the Bills' chance to extend Cook? No, but I do think it helps James Cook out a bit more because I feel like when that news dropped that James Cook was looking for $15 million per year, everybody loved throwing out the fact that, oh, there's no way that James Cook deserves more money than Saquon Barkley, who at the time was making close to $12.5 million a year based off of his contract, right? But now that the dude's getting paid $20 million, I think $15 million doesn't sound as bad to some NFL organizations. I still don't think he's going to get 15 M's, but I think he's going to get a hell of a lot closer than where he would have been if that Barkley contract did not go through. So we will see. I don't like the way that guy in the background is looking at me. There you go. There you go, Bob. Stop being rude. Stop freaking people out, man. Dan, and did you hear that Mitch Morse has retired? I did. I was really surprised he didn't do it last year, but I guess he just wanted one more little payday to go and have a vacation down in Florida. But solid career, was a massive piece of this offensive line for quite some time. I remember when we ended up making the trade for him and signing him, it was a big reason why Josh Allen was able to develop, is really just being able to build that interior offensive line protection. Losing Groot will be like losing Jerry Hughes, Stephen MC. I mean, listen, man, I have a feeling that he's going to be an extension. And I think that he's probably at the top priority for this front office because, number one, there's a lot of cap room that needs to be adjusted right now for it. So I could potentially see Greg Rousseau being the next one to get an extension just because we basically need to for this year's cap implications in and of itself. I'm joking, bro. LOLOL. Nah, man, it's cool. And so I know you bet in here. I appreciate that. Bob is on a permanent workman's comp. He is. He's been getting paid. James has been reposting the same thing back to back on Instagram. I mean, look, dude, he wants his money. And just like anybody else who wants a raise within their own profession, I don't really think he's acting any bit out of the ordinary. Bob needs to shut up for you all, Dan. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about, man. Dan, thoughts on restructuring Curtis Samuel, draft Xavier Restrepo, and cut Samuel after next season? Restrepo is like Shakir, but just a better route runner. Bills did interview him. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I was sort of... I'm trying to think of the word here. Less hype after I saw him work out at the Senior Bowl by itself. Because honestly, man, like when you look at the NFL Combine, it is just a training camp for the most part. It's shorts and a t-shirt. There's no pads. and there's really not a lot of competition. I wasn't too impressed with Restrepo at the Senior Bowl. I have a couple of other wide receivers that I would be intrigued with. I think Curtis Samuel could also be a restructure guy. He's not going to be able to be cut this year because it doesn't really do us any favors. Anyone else a little concerned that Bean hasn't done anything regarding cuts or restructures yet, or am I worrying too much? So I feel like you might be worrying a tad too much because we really have until March 12th for us to be cap compliant. And a lot of the times we really didn't hear news until the legal tampering period ultimately ended up happening. Like, why I think that it's taking him so long for restructures is that I think he's pretty deep into conversations right now with a couple of players for potential extensions. That's why I think that we're witnessing a holdup right now. If it's a choice between Bills getting Garrett and DK, who are you taking? I am taking Garrett every single day and twice on Sunday. I really don't think that DK Metcalf is worth $30 million per year. Dude is 6'3", 230 pounds by itself, but he doesn't play like a big wide receiver. His contested catch rate for the past 2 years has been 29% and 30%. And for somebody that's been so highly touted as this crazy ass wide receiver, he doesn't really live up to what he did in 2020 and 2021. He doesn't impress me to a point where I'm just okay, yeah, I want to pay him $30 million a year. Why do you think that Seattle is so willing to walk away from the guy right now, right? Of course, the cap hit is interesting, but say, for example, that Seattle thought that he was a must and he was truly what that guy was, then yeah. So for me, it's Myles Garrett because number one, we need pass rush, and I don't think that we need to spend an additional $30 million a year on a weapon where we ultimately ended up being the most successful offense in points per game with the wide receiver core that we had last year. That's just where it's at. We have Andre saying, would you be happy if we signed Hassan Reddick at $10 million? No. It's funny because all of us are hoping for Myles Garrett, but what's more realistic is that we're going to get not a Myles Garrett, but a player, right? It's funny because when I look at some of the pending free agents, I could totally see us being oh, Bills end up signing Joey Bosa. And we're oh, great. Yeah, man. We're going to love those 6 games that we get out of him each and every single year. Breaking news, Dan Mitchell just signed a massive contract with the Buffalo Bills. Reports are saying it's a 2-year deal for $40 million. Man, listen, stop putting my business out there, baby. Stop putting my business out there. DK is good. I wouldn't say he's a consistent game changer. Look, when it comes to DK, he's probably going to be a Green Bay Packer and or a Patriot. That is more than likely where he is landing. I wouldn't be too excited if we were to sign him and we were to prioritize elsewhere. Because really what I think we need to do, especially in free agency with the limited cash that we do have, we need a veteran that can be a game changer on the defensive side of the football, and specifically on the defensive line and pass rush. That is hands down the most important thing that we need. I wouldn't get DK either. Offense is fantastic. Pass rush is everything. Frame boy, you and I are on the exact same page. Wes, can the Bills get Myles Garrett and Metcalf? I wouldn't like Metcalf, to be honest with you. I think he's just a name, right? So I think he's just a name. I don't think that he elevates this team much past already a team that was number 1 in points per game, right? Yes, we could, but I think it would be stupid. And so I think you just go get Myles Garrett, send over a trade if necessary. But yeah, last year when Bean made 5 or 6 moves within an hour or two, LOL, that's what he does, man. Listen, he just bets on himself for getting it done before the deadline. It sounds like me in college, baby. You know what I mean? Like me waiting for the last minute to write a paper when it was due in 2 hours. B+, fool. What about Josh Sweat? He's $18 million per year, a 3-year contract. I'd probably pass on that one. Look, if we were going for any game changer trade, I feel like it has to be for a Myles Garrett, right? And would have been for a Max Crosby, but so obviously he just ended up getting his contract extension yesterday, with the Las Vegas Raiders. Sweat played well, But what we're looking for is a defensive lineman that could cross that 10 plus sack season that we haven't had since 2013. So, in my opinion, it is either so we sign Myles Garrett, or we trade for Myles Garrett, or we just wait for the NFL draft. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Holden Hester is saying, Dan, I just have a bad feeling that we aren't going to make a move for Myles and the Ravens are going to get Hollywood Brown. So the Ravens are not in a much better financial decision as the Buffalo Bills are. Yo, what up, Dan? We need to get together and compare our helmet memorabilia. Hey, man, listen, bro. I have some pretty solid stuff. I'm pissed about that blue one because when I ordered it for myself, it doesn't fit on my head. You know what I mean? Because obviously, and so your boy's got a big noggin, right? So I couldn't, so I can't get that on my head, man, which is very frustrating. Wonder if the Niners will try to bring the Bosa boys together. I know a buddy of mine who is a big 49ers YouTuber, and he is completely against that. Tutu Atwell re-signed with the LA Rams. Let's go ahead and double check this. The Rams and wide receiver Tutu Atwell agreed to terms on a 1-year, $10 million contract with $5 million fully guaranteed signing bonus and $5 million fully guaranteed base. The deal was done by agents Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey. Oh, man, you love to see that. Guys, 136 of you are currently watching on YouTube, and 134 of you are on X, 3 on Facebook, and 1 on Twitch. If you haven't already, folks, please do me a favor, smash that like button. And if you are watching the replay of this episode, just go ahead and hit those bell notifications so you never miss a live stream, man. It's going to be Khalil Mack and Christian Kirk, classic brand moves. Bills should sign Joey Bosa. Look, as long as the Bosa deal is like $4 million a year, or like a $10 million contract and only $5 million is guaranteed, and it's 2 years, and there's an easy out, zero cap implications, I'm fine. But dude hasn't played a full season since like 2019. I'm pretty sure he's only played 2 full seasons his entire career. So it better not be for a lot of money if he ultimately does end up coming to Buffalo. It's a high ceiling, but unfortunately, he is made of absolute glass. No Bosa, no Mac, please, for the love of God. No Hollywood Brown either. I'm a big Hollywood Brown guy. And it's funny because people are always saying, oh my God, no, dude, he's injury prone. He was literally injured 1 season his entire career. Like 1 season his entire career where he missed significant time. So I'm really not getting the whole he's injury prone sort of argument. Thoughts on the Arizona Cardinals and what they need to do to be a playoff team. Mac 26, what's going on, man? How you doing, bro? Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. That is what you guys need to invest in. Right on the defensive side of the football, right? Go up, stock up on interior defensive line right within the drafts. I would also be in the Myles Garrett competition. I would also maybe shoot out feelers right to Josh Sweat, maybe Milton Williams. Y'all getting to the quarterback is probably one of the most number one needs I think that you could look for. I also think that you could add a bit to your secondary and then just make sure that you hit on the draft picks. Find yourself another wide receiver to pair up with Maserati Marv, and I feel like you guys would be solid. Shout out to our good friends and the Arizona Cardinals fans that are coming on in here. Hey, listen, man. Listen, I have a show for you, all right? Because right now, obviously, you're tuning into a Buffalo Bills stream, but I got something for you that I think you're going to appreciate. My sports media company, Roundtable Sports, has just ended up releasing a show called Fourth and Forever. It is a daily NFL news show where we cover all of the hot topics surrounding the league. And obviously, with all of these cap maneuvers and free agency looming, we have been going hot, and these shows have been incredible. Guys, we are live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST, unpacking everything and anything that has to do with the NFL. So please do me a favor, go subscribe to the Roundtable Sports channel right over here, and always have your bell notifications turned on so you don't miss an episode, man. Like, we actually were going off yesterday. Let's go ahead and check out an episode we did, right? Here we are, some solid stuff. There's me yapping Richie and TD. Solid episode, solid production too, might I say. Your full NFL news, rumors, and hot take show. Folks, in fact, if you have tuned in to Fourth and Forever already, please sound off in the chat with a 1. Spam 1 in the chat if you have had an opportunity of checking this show out, because we are super proud of it. And episode 4 is actually starting today at 2 p.m. EST. I am really okay with trading a second for next year for DK Metcalf. See, I feel like people obsess over names, right? See, I really feel like people obsess over names. I don't want to send anything over for anything offensively at all. I do not want to walk away with draft capital so to add to an offense that was already number 1 in the NFL in points per game last year, right? I don't want to do that. I'm fine with adding in free agency, but that's about it. Dan, I think if the Bills don't bring back Mac Hollins, the Mafia will riot. I think we will bring him back for a pretty modest deal. Jay is saying, I would be okay moving on from Hollins if we get Hollywood Brown for the cheap. I still like Mac Hollins as a special teams contributor. That's honestly what he should have been in the first place. After watching Super Bowl, Myles Garrett is more important than DK, in my opinion. I 110% agree. All right, look at that, man. We have a lot of people that have tuned in so far to Fourth and Forever. I subscribed yesterday, Stephen MC. I appreciate that. I like TD. That's good. That's funny that we have a Bills fan that likes TD Finstock, man. I promise you he will piss you off sooner rather than later, but it will be funny indeed. Don't forget we need Ty Johnson back, our best pass-catching running back. That game against the Lions told me he should be a Buffalo Bill for life. He's one of the best RB3s in the game, baby. But listen, man, as long as we have a solid offensive line, I think we're going to be seeing quality production from whatever running back lines up behind the O-line. Finns doesn't know football, and the Dolphins blow. But that's what makes the show that much more entertaining. Hollywood Brown is a way better price over DK. Absolutely. We were talking about a DK Metcalf that would cost about $30 million per year compared to a Hollywood Brown that for some reason people think is injury prone after only being injured 1 season, and it was a collarbone issue, was not a knee, like nothing significant, right? Like nothing significant at all. He's calling for $8 million per year. I'd rather roll the dice on Hollywood Brown because he gives us the speed on the outside and he's a hell of a lot cheaper. Like, why do we want DK Metcalf? So, like, we could buy a jersey with DK Metcalf or like run him like with Madden. If you want DK Metcalf that bad, folks, fire up Madden 25 and make the trade, because that's going to be the closest I think we ever see him on this team. Angel Dan from Puerto Rico. And the more time goes by, the more Garrett trade goes down the dream pipe. I mean, don't get it twisted. I want the Bills to Buffalo to get him. So I'll tell you what. I feel like the media has been doing NFL fans a disservice by making them believe that this trade should have already happened or it's going to happen within the next couple of weeks. Right now, the Browns are literally in cap hell. They just restructured Deshaun Watson's contract, which has finally made them cap compliant. But say, for example, that they trade Myles Garrett right now, or they release Myles Garrett, which is not going to happen, right? That has a negative impact on their cap right now. They lose money to a cap space that they need to protect at all costs this year. It only financially makes sense to trade for Myles Garrett or to allow him to walk when it's after June 1st, because that's the only way that it makes sense for the Cleveland Browns. So don't give up on the Myles Garrett trade. Just start to taper your expectations of when it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen until after that mark. You'll probably be traded about mid-June. Say that I'm a gambling man. RM56, top 3 offense in the league, while our defense in the playoffs is historically the worst of all time. So we may need to like a cheap speedster, but I'm not interested in any of the big heads in the market. I agree with you. Do not spend quality money on an offense that is already absolutely incredible. What about Devontae Adams for the right price? I don't think that. So we would find a right price. So it would make sense for the Bills, right? Because say that Adams would cost the same amount as Hollywood Brown, sure, right? Like say that he would cost the exact same amount as Hollywood Brown, then I sign me up. Sign me up. Rick is saying we need a solid one tech. Are there any trade ideas? So I don't know about trades, but I do like quite a bit of prospects in the NFL draft, right? Like now I have been seeing a lot of mock drafts that have actually been mocking and watching players like Harmon from Oregon drop to 30. I've seen a couple of draft boards have Kenneth Grant surprisingly available at pick number 30. I'm not sure how much I buy into that, but if either of those two names are there, that's an absolute dream. I want a one tech with the first pick that we have in the NFL draft, which is a dangerous mentality to have, but would love Derek Harmon and would absolutely love Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. I feel like dude would be a stud. I really do. I've seen a couple of potential like free agent signings, like a Sebastian Joseph Day, right? Like he's been a guy that's been on a couple of teams so far. But like this team has only ever since the McDermott tenure has brought in a veteran at the one tech position, and typically one that is aged out of their prime, right? Like he brought in star Lutalele when he first ended up coming to this organization. And then afterwards was a rotation of Jordan Phillips, who I thought like was solid. And then Daquan Jones, who is also a vet. I want some youth at the one tech position. So I'm probably going to stick to the drafts um, for that missing piece. Frame boy, I would take Hollywood over DK, but I don't think we need either. And I appreciate you, Dan. I've been a subscriber since around the second half of the season. Thank you for your insight. I'm closest Bills fan, huge JA17 fan. I'm going to go subscribe and hit the bell notification on Fourth and Forever. Thank you, bro. Listen, man, do not miss out on it, man. Listen, Fourth and Forever, guys. It is our daily NFL news show. Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST. We are always here and always giving you all of the late breaking news across the league, man. Absolutely insane. I have seen many that have Kenneth Grant at 30 or so. Right before the NFL Combine, I was seeing him go at 9, at 12, at 14, 15. But now a lot of the mock draft simulators that I have been like working with have seen him drop significantly. That does not mean that that's where he's going to drop. He could very well still be a top 15 pick. But Grant would be my dream pick at that sort of position of the draft. Him or Derek Harmon, like you were looking at a happy Buffalo Bills fan if that is who we end up walking away with at 30. Jay is saying, what is the projected AAV for Darius Slayton? Can you please check? Last time I looked, let me check out Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton's spot track. With Darius Slayton, his market value, and that's according to Spot Track, is at about $16 million per year. So, so with the Hollywood Browns starting to sound more and more attractive, isn't it? Right? An $8 million contract for Hollywood Brown, who's younger than Darius Slayton, by the way, sounds a bit more attractive than a $16 million Darius Slayton 3-year, $48 million deal, right? Man, I have a feeling after this is all said and done, man, we are going to have a lot of Bills to sign Hollywood Brown believers in this chat, and I cannot wait. EJ, what's up, EJ? I will definitely have to check out Fourth and Forever. Dude, listen, it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST, and I'm pretty sure that we're being launched on audio as well. But for now, it's only on YouTube. I will keep you guys up to date on that, and trust me, I will be annoying and let you guys know about Fourth and Forever all the damn time. I would honestly be okay getting him over Brown is not there for the taking anymore. For sure, dude. So the Bills focus on DK over Garrett now and draft more defensive players? No. All right. I do not want All right, listen, I do not want him on this team, and that's DK Metcalf because I think he's overrated. I really think that DK Metcalf is overrated. And I think that that is certainly it's certainly a hot take. But like, dude's 6'3", he's 225 pounds. His past 2 seasons, like he has only caught 27 and 30% of his contested catches, which normally I would go on ahead and like I would like have a pass to, or I would say, all right, dude, you get a pass for that. But he's 6'3", 225 pounds. He does not play to his size very well. Um, I just don't think that he would fit this offense, especially the way that Joe Brady plays it, right? Like we don't need a guy like DK on this team. Like we just need someone that's fast because we ultimately end up moneyballing wide receivers. Like we get wide receiver 1 production from 3 different guys. And how we do that is that like we have a guy that's a good route runner and that's Khalil Shakir, and we get a guy that's great at 50-50 balls, and that is Keon Coleman. And say what you want about him, he's solid in contest and catch, solid in so with those sort of scenarios. And now we need somebody that's just a burner on the outside, and that's Hollywood Brown. So I don't think that DK makes any sense at all for us because number one, like, why are we spending $30 million to add to our offense when we literally had the number one highest scoring offense in the NFL with the, you know, full onslaught of wide receivers we had in 2024? It just doesn't make sense. I, like, would actually be really pissed off if, for example, we got DK Metcalf. Like, I would be so pissed off because I feel like we need an actual game changer on the defensive side of the football, and that needs to be a veteran. I'm fine with paying Myles Garrett $35 million dollars a year. Absolutely, because that was something we needed right then and there. Um, Dexy is saying Hollywood doesn't have the speed he used to have, and that was his one trick. I rather draft a speed guy, Steven. And with D Hop is probably staying with the Chiefs. I thought of that too. And LOL, I already said that DK is not going to a top tier team. He is too expensive and never been a true number one. He's going to be a New England Patriot, right? He's going to be a New England Patriot. Like he's going to be shipped off to whatever team gives the best compensation to the Seattle Seahawks. He has no say into where he is going, right? Dan, I have done multiple PFF mock drafts and I've seen Nolan, Harmon, Grant, and James Pierce Jr. and Luther Burden III fall to 30 or around 30, and Shador Sanders falls into the 40s. I have seen that too, right as of late. Um, so I'll say this, right? So I feel like Walter Nolan, like dude's more of a 3 technique, but Harmon and Grant sign me up because that fits the mold of precisely of what the Buffalo Bills are looking for. It would just be a perfect fit for either of those 2 names. With James Pierce Jr., he's fast, great, but he is undersized, has small arms. Maybe he goes off from the edge position. I'd rather have like a Landon Jackson who's in like the 2nd round perhaps. He could be a guy that we could look for on the edge side of things. But I don't care who gets the damn pressure. I don't care who gets the damn pressure. Just get the damn pressure. We have my boy Joe Rist is sending Bills hate from Belize. What's going on, man? How you doing? Who would Garrett be replacing on the line if we recruited him? He would probably just end up taking the vast majority of Von Miller snaps, right? So in an ideal world would be Garrett and then Rousseau as both of the edge rushers. And then with Rousseau and AJ Epinesa would probably go on ahead and rotate. And then Vaughn would get like 15-20% of the snaps, something like that. So he would just be added to the rotation, but he would be the edge rusher that would be getting a gross amount of the snaps, right? And by the way, bear with me because I'm sitting here and I'm double checking, making sure that we haven't missed out on any breaking NFL news. All right, got it. Okay, so the Vikings and safety Theo Jackson have agreed to terms on a 2-year, $12.6 million extension through 2027. And Tutu Atwell agreed on a 1-year, $10 million fully guaranteed. And the Seahawks are seeing a first and third round pick for DK Metcalf. And the Rams just extended Tutu. So that's really where we're at. Who would Garrett be replacing? And shout out to my boy Spidey. What's going on, man? So what about Dante Fowler? Intriguing. Get Garrett and Sweat and the first 2 draft picks for defensive tackles, then get Ward from San Francisco and Palmer from the Chargers. Man, wheeling and dealing over here. I like that. I can't stop wondering what would have been if we went for Worthy when we fell short on BTJ last draft, and then we could have gone for a big boy like Savion Williams or Higgins in this draft by itself. So it's kind of funny to me when it comes into people saying, "Oh, what would have happened if Xavier Worthy was on this team?" He probably would have finished very similar to Keon Coleman. And to be completely honest with you, like him and Keon Coleman virtually had the exact same stats of the 2024 season. And Keon Coleman also ended up missing about 4 games so far. So like when you compare the stats between the two, like they were literally dead even as far as production. Sure, Worthy had a great playoff stretch, like mostly against the Buffalo Bills. It's not so much against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just a really annoying debate, right? Especially when it comes into both of them. Like, look, I really don't feel Worthy or Coleman even came close to the quality that Brian Thomas Jr. put up this year. Like Brian Thomas Jr. was the prize, folks. Like he was truly the best wide receiver to come out, like right of that draft. So don't be pissed off that we didn't get, right? All right, honestly, here it is. So the 2 best receivers that came out of last year's draft was Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey. Those were the 2 best wide receivers that came out of the draft, right? And many of you guys knew that I was a big Ladd McConkey guy. I wanted Ladd McConkey on this squad like more than y'all knew. But that's just how the cookie crumbled. Just how the cookie crumbled, you know what I mean? I promise you that the Kansas City Chiefs are wishing that they somehow found out a way to get Brian Thomas Jr. / Ladd McConkey the same way that the Buffalo Bills are wishing that they did the exact same thing. That's something I like to throw out there. Craig is saying Hollywood is fast, but what is his catch rate over 20 yards over the past couple of seasons? I feel like he doesn't do what he is built to do very well. Maybe I am wrong. So he certainly had an intriguing career, right? Like he started off with Lamar Jackson right before I think he developed into the passer that he is now, because I feel like Lamar definitely struggled as a passer in his early years, right? Like he's now a dog in it, but it did take him a little bit. So to have an offensive coordinator really bring out his strengths in that category of his game. And then he had Kyler Murray, who certainly had a couple of injuries while he was over in Arizona as well. And then last year, obviously, he missed the season with that collarbone. So we really didn't get to see a lot. But he has had some quality years over at Baltimore with about 1,000 yards by itself. I feel like he's a good prospect. He really, really is. Especially for that price, right? And really, like, we're just looking for him to be the speedster on the outside, right, Craig? Like, one of my favorite things to say is that this Buffalo Bills team moneyballs a wide receiver number 1. Like, we look at all the qualities of a wide receiver number 1, that's route running, that's speed, hands, 50-50, like whatever. And we try to get that production from 3 different guys. So, like, what we're missing is just someone to be a speedster. And we're talking about an offense, too, that broke records for different amount of players that caught a touchdown pass at any given moment. But I don't know. We have Johnny. With Brian Thomas wasn't reachable for us. Suppose we could have traded up a little bit. What about Neighbors? He was probably second best, if not tied with Brian Thomas Jr. What about? I always forget about Neighbors. So what do you think of Jonathan Allen if he is released or if we trade for him? I would not be upset with him. I feel like he would be quality depth. And so I do feel like he would be an upgrade from Daquan Jones, and he probably wouldn't be too expensive. Dan, where are you taking Bob on a date later? Don't worry about being Bob, brother. Nobody wants to give me money for my X-Worthy Prism SP rookie card. Forget Worthy. Nobody wants to buy his rookie card, folks. All right, we have Neighbors and Brian Thomas both came out of LSU. It seems like LSU has been producing the best wide receivers the past few years. You have Jay Jettas also came from LSU as well, and so did Jamar Chase. Is Trevor Lawrence bad? Yes, but that's a video for an entire different time. But all right, folks, that's going to have to do it for another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. I will be live later, especially if there is some sort of news that comes out here shortly. And shout out to Scott for coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much. Dan, I really hope they don't get rid of Cook. I hope they sign him either before camp or before the season starts. He's one of our best running backs. I hope Brandon Beane gets a deal done. I have a feeling he will. And I think people won't even be too upset for that. Mike Green, shout out to my boy Mike Green for always showing in some love, man. Always showing in love and all the work he does behind the scenes for my mods. No, Dan, you can't leave yet. I just joined. Dubs, have no fear, man. I will be back a bit later this afternoon. And guys, again, I want to remind everybody that we just ended up launching a daily NFL news show. We cover the entire league. It's called Fourth and Forever, and it's over at the Roundtable Sports channel. Highly, highly, highly recommend that y'all go over there and turn on bell notifications because we're live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST, and we obviously have a lot to discuss with all of the pending moves that are likely going to happen and so on and so forth. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Love each and every single one of you, and I will see you over on Fourth and Forever. Deuces.